Hello and welcome to today's Delta Credit Tip. So no matter how hard you and your loved one tries, you simply can't control the spending. No matter what you do, you gotta buy what's on sale. How can you tell between bad credit behavior and a spending addiction? And what can you as a family member do to either recognize it and deal with it? Well, stay tuned, we'll fill you in on today's Delta Credit Tip. Hello and welcome back to today's Delta Credit Tip. So today we're talking about spending as an addiction. A big part of what credit repair for us here at Delta is about controlling the budget. And sometimes we recognize we have certain customers that no matter how hard we try, no matter how logical it is, no matter how bad the buyer's remorse of our buyers, they simply cannot control their spending. And the psychology behind an addiction, buying as an addiction, is a relatively new term. But recent studies have shown that about 10% of Westerners here in the United States have that behavioral trait where that's compulsory spending is just simply more than can be controlled, and it actually requires some of the same steps that you would have with any other kind of addiction, whether it be a chemical addiction or a sexual addiction or some other kind of addiction. They all have some of those same characteristics. As a matter of fact, there's a variety of different types of buyer behavior that's compulsory, that's considered an addiction, and they kind of fall in these categories. The first being where it's just simply compulsive. And the thing about compulsive buying is that it's a cycle, right? Because you go into it and it's done to first either compensate for a negative feeling or to avoid a negative feeling. And what happens is that as you go into the shopping to either get that euphoric feeling and then it's followed by that negative feeling, you go back and buy to then avoid the negative feeling, and now you start that whole cycle, right? And for a lot of our customers, that compulsory behavior, that cycle of getting the good feeling and then compensating for the bad feeling, is a cycle they simply can't get out of. The other type of customer we have is the collector, right? They have to have the whole set of something. They can't just simply buy the first thing. It becomes this huge compulsory shopping where they have to have the entire set of whatever it is that they're trying to collect on. The third type of addictive buying behavior are for those who are trying to create an image. So a lot of times it's very expensive things that they will buy, and even though they don't really earn that sort of income, the things that they do buy kind of represent themselves in a class that they really don't belong to, right? And of course, there's inherent problems with that because you're spending more than you can afford to create an image that you can't maintain. And no matter how illogical it is or how out of place you really are, you still continue to make those purchases, okay? Then there's also the fourth type, which is a codependency kind of buying behavior. And this is where you're really looking for some sort of social acceptance. A lot of this could be either in membership deals or being part of some sort of organization, but there's this codependent kind of buying that you do, right? A fifth element of how you can be considered a addictive buyer is through bargaining, right? Anytime there's a bargain, you have to buy it. I see a lot of this in first-time mothers. They'll buy that baby product that they'll grow into in, say, month 13, right? But since it's on sale now, they have to have it now. That sort of thing happens quite a bit when you expand it out to just, hey, soap is on sale. Hey, rugs are on sale. Hey, it's on sale, I have to buy it. That kind of attraction to that bargain, that need to get that good deal is so paramount that you have to make that purchase. And then there's the trophy shopper, who is kind of like the bargain shopper, where you just have to find that perfect item, right? It straightens the hair the most perfect way. It fits on my foot the most perfect way. And that sort of trophy buying of that perfect product seems to be a recycling pattern that they have. So the point of all this is that addictive buying behavior can take a variety of forms, right? And right now, even though it's new, it is becoming a much more prominent thing. And a lot of times these behavior traits start very early in life, right? But I'm a credit expert. I'm not an addiction therapist. So what I thought we would do is take a field trip and go visit with an actual addiction counselor so that we can talk about how does a family recognize this sort of behavior in an everyday kind of thing, as well as how do we handle it, right? How do we handle it as both the person that's making the purchases, and how do we handle it as a family member trying to deal with all this money going out the door? So stay tuned. We're gonna go make a visit to our friend, the addiction counselor, and get a little session on the couch. Hello and welcome back. I'm here with my friend Diana Alvaro with Keystone Counseling, and I had some questions about spending like an addiction. Now, you're an addiction counselor, correct?
Correct.
So we have a lot of clients sometimes, and they come in and we put them on a budget, but for some reason it's very, very difficult for them to stay on budget because their spending just seems to get out of control. It's starting to wreak havoc on the relationship. And so we thought we'd come talk to you to maybe get a better understanding about how spending can actually be like an addiction.
Actually, spending can be an addiction.
Very interesting. So usually when we think about addictions, we're thinking like crack cocaine, right? Or something along those lines. How is spending become a habit?
Actually, addiction is anything that interrupts your lifestyle.
Okay.
So drugs interrupt your lifestyle. Alcohol interrupts. People get addicted to chaos in a relationship. They're so used to having chaos that when they have peace, they don't know how to handle it, so they create it. Spending is it becomes an addiction when it interrupts the family unit. As
Right.
far as let's say you're at Dillard's and you come by the Brahmin bags and they're running up $600.
So I guess Brahmin bags are like a big thing. I don't wear Brahmin bags, so
That's one of my favorites.
okay.
So what happens is you'll see it and you'll talk yourself out of it, or if you're with your husband or with your spouse, your partner, or whatever, you won't get it because you don't want them to know that you're even thinking about spending that much money on a bag. So you go home, you'll talk yourself, you'll try not to think about it, you'll think about it all night, and then you're the first one at the dealer's house, which is Dillard's.
Right.
10 o'clock, you're the first one in, you go right for it, you get it. The bad thing is that you have a mortgage, usually, people have mortgages, rent, they have car payments, food. Addicts don't think about that.
So I got a spouse, right? Let's say I got a spouse, and how can I tell the difference between, hey, it's an addiction versus they just got champagne budget, or champagne, what is it? Champagne taste on a natty budget. How do we know the difference between that?
When your mortgage is due and you're balancing,
right?
Gosh, I gotta pay my mortgage today. I really want that though.
Right.
I'll just call the mortgage company. I can go 3 months before they come after me.
Right.
But what happens if I'm renting? I think you can only go 5 days. I can borrow from this person, this person, this person. I'll just tell them that. I'll give them a sad story. Everybody always buys sad stories. You know what? I'll worry about that later.
Okay.
Because I really got to go get that.
So really, it's about the deprioritizing of the things that really
Absolutely.
matter, and it just seems to never seem to connect. That hey, this is what I should be spending the money on.
Discounting everything and everybody.
So as, let's say, the spouse, I mean, that's got to be a tough thing to deal with, because usually people who don't understand either addiction or depression or some sort of, mental illness, I guess you can call it, for lack of better words, because we're not experiencing it, it's hard for us to understand it, and it's hard for us to deal with it. So if we have a spouse or someone in the household that's kind of going through this issue, We've already talked about how we recognize it, but how do we deal with it?
You know, that's a hard call because a lot of people don't understand spending being an addiction until, you know, a lot of people will come in and either the wife takes care of the bills or the husband, but they don't do it together.
Right.
So they don't know where the money is going.
Right. So they're not talking about the budget.
That's absolutely right.
Exactly.
And so what happens is they'll spend $600 on the bag and they won't pay the rent. Well, the spouse doesn't know that they're not paying the rent until
it's too late.
They get that eviction notice or the tag on the door, or you get that 6 o'clock knock at the door with eviction papers. So what happens is, you know, some spouses, they ignore it and think it's going to go away. Addicts have a talent of creating chaos or a fight to quiet their spouse up. So they'll leave them alone, and then they can walk away, and
or
then they
maybe
can start
divert the attention to something
absolutely,
else. Yeah.
they transfer it over, or they make it all their fault.
Okay.
You know,
So
if
shift the blame.
if you have a better job, if I could do this, then I deserve. It's all about me. You know, we don't think about our kids. We don't think about our husbands, our wives. We don't think about anybody. All we do is think about what it is that we want, how we can get it, and how fast we can get it before anybody finds out.
Right.
And so
if we start seeing, okay, we're constantly chasing that next bill, we're making plenty of money, the closet stuff seems to be growing, right? And it never seems to be ending. So we go to approach our spouse.
Well, or you know what, sometimes too, they'll put stuff in their trunk. They'll go shopping, they'll put stuff in their trunk, and then when the husband or the wife is gone, they'll put it in their closet acting like it was already there.
Right.
Like they always had it. So they'll say, hey, did you buy something new today? No, I've always had this.
So how do we have a constructive conversation about that?
The best thing that I can tell you is to be direct and to, talk to somebody before you approach. An addiction counselor would be a good idea. To sit down and find out, what is a way to approach a person, because you want to go with it with love and understanding,
right,
and not conflict or anger, because then you're going to shut them down,
right.
But being straightforward and saying, hey, this is what's going on, can you tell me, is there a problem?
And so maybe getting some help first, and that way when you're approaching your spouse, it's not, like I said, not from a bad place, because obviously we just want to help, and not to mention we want to get back on track financially. Right. So maybe the couple extra dollars they spend on a counselor is well worth running the risk of the chaos and just derailing the whole relationship.
And also, you have to also take into account addicts do not like to be confronted.
Makes sense. Great.
So if you confront me, if you come to me and you question me about why are the bills not getting paid? Where's the money going?
Right.
I already know what happened, but now I'm going to come at you because now you're questioning, my integrity, and I'm going to come up with all kind of things.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So addiction it's very hard to approach an addict, but at the same time, the best thing you could do is, like I said, speak to an addiction counselor, with an open mind to what's going on,
right,
and approach your spouse. We have a person that we work close with as far as dealing with debt. Get with that person that deals with the debt and start to take over the finances, or perhaps maybe do them together.
Right.
Doing them together. I find a lot of people do not do their bills together, which leaves a person that has a spending addiction wide open.
Right.
It's like giving a crack addict $20. They'll go get a $10 rock or a $20 rock.
Right. Makes sense.
But they will never make it to where they need to go. So addiction can be anything, but spending is huge. It's huge.
So go with love and kindness. Maybe get some help up front before you actually approach the spouse, and keep an open mind, because just because it's not crack doesn't mean it can't make you fall through the cracks.
That's correct. Always educate yourself
Right.
about whatever's going on. Get some help before approaching it, so you're approaching it the right way. Sometimes we only get one shot.
Okay. Well, I hope this information helps. Thanks to Diana Alvaro of Keystone Counseling here in the state of Florida. If you've got questions, put them down below, and either myself or Diane can get back with you as soon as possible. And in the meantime, hopefully this will help you and your addicted spender in the house make a choice, make a change. Delta.